Sometime in the 1970s, when I self identified as a pagan, but not yet as a Unitarian Universalist, I brought the classic Rider Waite Smith tarot deck. And you can say that either way, tarot or tarot. I bought that deck and I never did anything with it. I did not like the imagery on the cards, and I was skeptical about divination and fortune telling in general. So that deck rattled around in my house for decades before I finally gave it away or disposed of it somehow. Fast forward to October of 2021 to the yearly UU retreat at Silver Bay that Donna and I have been attending regularly. Meredith Mercer, a UU from the Albany Church, was giving tarot readings. I sat with her for a reading and I was impressed with the results. The insight that I got from the reading was that I needed to change my attitude toward my grown son. I needed to stop feeling responsible for him and trying to save him from himself. So I took action on that realization and let him know that I was no longer going to try to influence the way he lives his life. That has been a relief for both me and for my son. I found the deck that Meredith was using to be beautiful and the imagery to be much more compelling for me than the deck I never did anything with. Meredith explained that she had used the time during the quarantine of the pandemic to learn more about tarot and begin to do readings. Over the past 9 months, she has shared resources, training, and readings with me. She's been a tremendous help in the learning process, and I'm grateful for her support. While doing research for this homily, I came upon a sermon created by the Reverend Dr. Todd F. Eklop on the subject of tarot. Although I disagree with many things that Reverend Todd espouses, I found his comments on tarot to be useful. He very eloquently talks about the emotional impact of images. A moment ago, I stated that I had a very different reaction to the imagery on the original deck I encountered compared to the one that Meredith introduced me to last year. The Reverend points out that images stir something within us, not because of their intrinsic qualities, but because of the meanings that we project onto them, because of what is happening in each of our lives as well as the world outside the image. I'm going to share a couple of paragraphs from one of his sermons because I don't think I can improve on his words. He stated, "Imagery has the power to move us, provoke us, and cause us to assign subjective meaning to what, objectively, are little more than ink blots. This is the basis upon which I have long used imagery to help contemplate the circumstances of my own life, to resolve inner conflicts, and to determine what direction I should take. For there is something about contemplating an image that can lead us to insights we might otherwise miss. Whether pondering the meaning of our own dreams or drawing upon images from ancient oracles like constellations, the I Ching, or tarot cards, most of us seem to have the uncanny ability to discover in them just what we need at the moment." He continues, "This habit of finding meaning in almost everything and anything, like Virgin Mary in the clouds, Jesus in a slice of toast, is what Harvard psychologist Robert Kegan defines as humans as meaning makers, explaining that what a human organism organizes is meaning itself. It also seems to have something to do with our mental wellness. We must all cope with suffering, uncertainty, and evil in the world, and we often do so by projecting order in such chaos. That is, by finding meaning in the random ink blotches of life. Doing so was the entire point of Nazi death camp survivor Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, as outlined in his classic book, Man's Search for Meaning, in which he argues we can survive anything if we can find meaning in it. As sociologist Peter Berger says, we all have an innate need for meaning, and we cannot accept meaninglessness. That's the end of the quote. Carl Jung was also a fan of the tarot, along with other ancient devices, because of the tarot's archetypal imagery, which can help us access wisdom buried in our unconscious minds. The origins of the cards are murky, with various theories about their origin. Reportedly, people began using them for divination in the 18th century. When that happened, the deck went from 56 suited cards, similar to regular playing cards, to 78 cards, 22 of which are called the major arcana. And that word arcana means mystery or secret. These cards, the 22 major arcana cards, are independent images like the Fool, the Devil, the Tower, the Star, Death, and so on. The Rider-Waite Smith deck, the one that I did not delve into in the 1970s, was first printed in 1909. Now there were literally more than 100 decks available, many of which have fabulous artwork. I'm a very visual person, which is undoubtedly one reason why I'm so attracted to tarot. I have 4 of my own decks that I have spread out here on the chancel. Please feel free to take a look at them and note the differences in the imagery. One of the 4 decks came with an extra card which stated, quote, "You are a badass being, full of life, love, and possibilities. Through this deck, may you find a path to your interest," to figure out which of the 4 decks came with that sentiment. But needless to say, I loved it immediately. So let's look at a couple of images. This is the 9 of Pentacles from the Morgan Greer deck, and it's one of my favorites. And it's not just because of the hat. Those of you who know me know that I have a reputation for wearing a hat to church. I don't usually wear a turban, but for today, when I ask myself, what do I like about this card and what relevance does it have to my own life? I found that I appreciated the straightforward gaze of the woman, the fact that she appeared to be very content, self-contained, confident, calm. Needless to say, those qualities are sometimes lacking in my own life, especially given everything happening in the world and in my own personal sphere. I recently took the message of the card seriously, and I made a difficult decision to give up a volunteer job that was causing me a great deal of stress. In general, I hate to give up. I prefer to persist and feel as though I have wrestled a given issue to the ground. But my reaction to the wisdom of the 9 of Pentacles helped me make a decision that definitely feels correct in retrospect. I want to point out there are numerous traditional meanings for each card. Some of the meanings for the 9 of Pentacles include enjoyment of solitary leisure, relaxation, the harvest of previous efforts, among others. My intuitive reaction to why I am so drawn to this particular card is more important, however, than the stock meanings. And my reaction to the card may vary depending on the day and if the card is part of a group of cards. So that I would look at how this card related to the other cards in what's called the spread of several cards. Here is another card. Yeah, typically considered one of the scary cards in the deck. Death, another major arcana card, and this one is from the Dreaming the Way tarot deck. I've drawn this card numerous times. However, the only time it meant actual death to me was the day it literally fell out of the deck before Barbara McLaughlin's memorial service here at church. The other times, it was clearly a sign of change from one thing to something else, a transition card, not necessarily to be feared, but rather embraced as an opportunity. Change is usually hard, and it may not be easy or simple to view it as an opportunity. Each card has the potential to lead a person to self-exploration and to bring underlying beliefs to the surface. By drawing out buried subconscious material, tarot cards can deepen communication with ourselves and with others. People who don't understand what I call intuitive tarot often desire answers, solutions, absolutes, a yes or a no from a reading. In reality, they're more likely to get opinions, awareness, and maybe some suggestions for homework. Michelle Morgan, in her book, A Magical Course in Tarot, writes, and I quote, "Spiritual tools have no true magic other than that which we entreat them. But as humans, because our emotional selves are so closely tied to our physical senses, it is essential to have something tangible, something to touch and see and experience that can help us hold space for the divine. Used with reverence, love, and sacred intent, the tarot is an invaluable medium for creating such a space for connecting with the intuitive nature and helping to find the balance between your human self and your spirit. Always remember that yours is the truest voice and you already know all the answers." That's the end of the quote. Before I do a reading, I let people know my philosophy of tarot, namely, each of us shapes our own destiny. The future is not set in stone. That's a very UU sentiment. The focus is on you, not on other people. And finally, I do not do therapy or give medical or financial advice. I highly value connection. In most of the readings I've done, I felt a connection with the other person involved, a connection that ideally, in the best of circumstances, may have benefited both of us either spiritually or emotionally. My purpose in pursuing tarot is conscious growth and empowerment. I'm in the process of enhancing my own intuitive powers in order to do a better job of exactly that. I want to end with a quote from Albert Einstein. He wrote, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." Thank you.